Hey guys, RagingRaptor here, and I welcome you to another World of Tanks 9.22 Testserver video. And today, as you probably can already see from the title, it is once again about the 705. This time, and legitimately, it is probably the most broken tank which came into the game in the sense of broken model-like. The 705, as you probably already see with my, some people call it clickbaity video, the stock turret is 305 millimeters of armor thickness. Meanwhile, the top turret doesn't really pose that problem, but it poses something else. This whole turret ring here is 160 millimeters thick roughly on the side. And as you can see, there are certain spots where if I'm pressing right click, I can actually see through and even shoot through. It's a super tiny spot, as you can see. Sometimes we bounce and sometimes we simply go through. Right now we are bouncing the hell out of it, but sometimes our shots legitimately go through, like here. And now comes the other thing. If we putting it further and further and further, you can see we can go up to here, where we still theoretically see through the 705. But what was that? What is that? We are shooting a PCR which has 112 millimeters of penetration. And somehow we are penetrating this thing here? What is going on? What in legit is going on? And suddenly, sometimes things are turning even green. As you can see, we are legitimately right now penning with a tier 3 tank. More or less reliably a tier 9 super heavy tank. Yes, it is APCR, but we're simply punching through. How is that happening? If we are now having a look at the armor model on tanks.gg, you can see why it is possible. Somebody at Wargaming headquarters again screwed over. Not only is the stock turret of this tank legitimately OP with being solely 300 millimeters thick, the top turret is not 100% placed on the hull, or rather something of the, well, as you can see, of the turret ring is missing. And this is like a huge problem if you think about it right now, because, and this is why it is so obnoxiously heavy to shoot through here and even hit it, because not only do you need to get a tank with the perfect height, which honestly after 2.5 hours of testing with Stuck 4, with this tank, with R44, simply not possible. I couldn't find it. Because even though our trajectory or our gun is actually shooting at the turret, we are shooting through the whole turret, because we are hitting this teeny tiny slit. As you can see, even the further we go back. Now another, you can also argue that here is still this slot here, but as far as further we go back here, if we go up here, there we have now this tiny slot where you can actually shoot through. And it's super heavy to actually nail. As you can see, right now we are once again missing a lot into his turret, but suddenly we are going to penetrate again. And this is due to that between both the upper turret and the hull, or excuse me, the bottom of the turret and the hull, where this connection should be, is 0 millimeters of armor. So if you don't have a tank which is 100% the height of the 705. You can, or the 705's turret ring, you can forget about hitting it. But what you can hit is this teeny tiny 0 millimeter spot. And as you can see, we can, if we have a steady hand, maybe we can even nail it here. I saw a little spot around here. Ah, there he was. Ooh. There. Now we are even further into the turret and, well, we can actually still, from time to time, penetrate it. Because if we go again back to the model, and it's also a little bit flimsy to get right. There you can see, this is a 0 millimeter armor spot. And yes, the same goes for the lower turret. And this is why you have such a hard time. You basically, what you need to get is a tank which is 100% the same height. The gun has to be at exactly the same height. Otherwise you can forget it. But we can even shoot through here. And actually it looks like we are shooting through the gun or the turret ring through this thick piece of metal here, which is 180 millimeters thick, but we will pen it. We simply penetrate it. It's absolutely funky that this happens. I know this is the test server, guys, and I totally understand that we as the player are right now here to explain stuff and find bugs like this and bugs like that. As you can see, this tank doesn't have this this turret problem. It's perfectly aligned. But still, I think that this is unacceptable. This should never happen in my opinion, because either, like, if you are putting this server out, I think you as a developer should still have a quick look at the armor model. Have a tiny quick look. See, yes, is it alright with the top, with the stock gun, or with the top and the stock turret? Is it alright? Is everything a-okay? This should never happen, actually, I think. This, on the other hand, I say, okay, this can happen, that you misplace something or forget to model something tiny bit. But it's actually fantastic that it's only so far on the 705 that we found those bugs. The 705A has a perfectly aligned turret, and as you can see here, the only thing, there is a 30 millimeter plate, but as you can see, it's neatly on the turret. It's totally neatly on the turret, and you have no, what should I say? You legitimately have no real idea or no real space to actually pen that point here. But yeah, after now, 2 hours, I have to say, it's okay, we can't do any more. Those were all the games, getting different tanks together. I think also another tank which actually is workable or is showing this little bug is the Stück 4. So I'm going to take this one out one last time and see if we can maybe nail it a little bit better. Nevertheless, I am, yeah. This is, yeah, totally the bug I wanted to show you, or the other broken part of that model, part 2, if you want to call it like that. Yes. And yes, for the people which called me out as a clickbaiter and some insults and such things, yes, it is in kind of a way a clickbait, but I also want to point out awareness. I want to aware people that this turret is simply broken, and well, with a YouTube video, I think it is pretty darn possible to do that, don't you think?
Disconnected.
I'm just gonna have to quickly do that one. Still some people are something around. Now, yeah, I also tried with the A43, with the Object 430 version 2, with the what was it? With the RV39 Tier 60D, with the AMAX 12T, Batchat 12T, and yes, it's impressively hard to actually nail it. Most of those tanks were either too high or too low. And as you could see beforehand, the other tank we had was a tiny bit too high. And there we have it again. Once again, we are 100% shooting into the side of the turret, but because the turret is slightly elevated, we actually penetrated. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think that a tier 3 TD can actually penetrate a tier 9 super heavy tank into the turret on the side. Obviously, tiny little bug. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll talk to you all later.